M24. The M24 is the U.S. Army's designation for the military version of the Remington Model 700, adopted in 1988 and produced by Remington Arms. It entered service that same year and saw wide use in the Gulf War, Afghanistan, Iraq, and later in the Syrian Civil War, carrying a role as a precision rifle in units that needed accuracy and consistent field performance. The Marine Corps' M40 family traces to the same 700 action lineage, giving both services a common mechanical origin even as their programs diverged. The rifle is a bolt-action system that originally chambered 7.62 by 51 mm NATO with a 5-round internal magazine. Later A2 and A3 configurations introduced detachable 5 and 10-round box magazines. It retained Remington's long-action geometry, even in 7.62 NATO, a design decision that allowed reconfiguration to longer cartridges without replacing the receiver. Baseline M24s used a 24-inch barrel. The M24A3 lengthened the tube to 27 inches to push effective range with heavier loads. Issued optics began with fixed 10x Leupold Ultra M3A scopes and later Leupold Mark IV LRT 10x40 models, often paired with detachable iron sights and Harris bipods. Variants mapped to evolving mission sets. The M24A2 added a detachable magazine, modular rail interfaces, and suppressor-ready furniture. The M24A3 ran 3.38 Lapua Magnum with a 5-round box magazine. The M24E1/XM2010 program converted legacy rifles to 300 Winchester Magnum with a new barrel, chassis stock, detachable magazine, suppressor, and higher power glass. Service accuracy requirements were demanding machine rest figures and long barrel life targets. The system can hold tight groups beyond the initial 0, even through high round counts. Practical employment fixed the 7.62 NATO configuration's effective range near 800 meters, while conversions in 300 and 338 extended practical reach and terminal effect in open terrain. Several nations and specialized units modernized legacy M24s, with contemporary chassis IDF examples moved to MDT stocks with MLOK and AR-style grips, illustrating that the core receiver and barrel system accepted new ergonomics and accessory ecosystems without losing its character. Many U.S. Army M24s were later upgraded to M2010 standards. Others remained in inventory for training and secondary duties. The design's present status is split between upgraded service rifles, institutional training assets, and civilian builds that replicate service configurations for competition and collection. Remington 870. The Remington 870 is a pump-action shotgun introduced in 1951 and produced continuously since. Designed by L. Ray Crittenden, Philip Haskell, Ellis Hailston, and G. E. Pinckney, it was built to deliver a robust action at an attainable price point, which helped it move from sporting racks to cruiser racks and military arms rooms. It has been chambered in 12, 16-20, and 28 gauge along with 410 bore, and barrel lengths have ranged from short tactical tubes to 30-inch hunting barrels. Most models feed from a tubular magazine under the barrel, typically between 3 and 7 rounds. Though duty conversions and a documented external 6+1 box magazine configuration exist. The platform saw service in Vietnam, the Rhodesian Bush War, Lebanon, Afghanistan, and Iraq. In addition to wide adoption by police agencies, production milestones speak to its ubiquity: millions sold across decades. With incremental changes such as screw-in rem chokes from 1986 and a later flexi-tab carrier to mitigate a shell latch bind that could stop the action. Field configurations proliferated into hundreds of variants: Fieldmaster, Wingmaster, SPS, Super Magnum, Marine Magnum, and scaled receivers for small gauges, among others. Unlicensed Chinese copies by Norinco Sarhawk appeared after patent protections expired, mirroring core traits of the original. The 870's present position remains secure in both sporting and service contexts, with an aftermarket that supports barrels, stocks, and accessories for nearly any role. Decades after initial release, it continues to serve as a baseline pump gun in training, breaching, and patrol kits while maintaining a large footprint in hunting and clay disciplines. Bushmaster XM15. The Bushmaster XM15 E2S family represents a classic AR approach that deliberately preserves the A2 carry handle sighting system rather than leaning into full-length rails. The lineup covered M4-style carbines and a wide set of trims, short models, target configurations, and dissipators among them, shaping an accessible path for agencies and shooters outside the Colt ecosystem. In one documented configuration, a heavy 16-inch M4A3 barrel shifts weight forward, trading quick muzzle transitions for a more settled return under rapid fire. Range reports in the source material describe groups around 3.5 inches at 100 yards from a prone rest with Lake City M855 and reliable cycling across Lancer, PMAG, and aluminum magazines on varied ammunition, including Winchester M855 Hornady steel-cased training loads and Wolf brass. The A2 rear sight, influenced by USMC patterns, offers precision but feels slower to adjust than modern optics. Even so, users noted effective performance on multi-target drills at short and mid-range with iron sights. Service and export notes place XM15s with police departments and units in Brazil, New Zealand, and Poland's Garam, reflecting a broad patrol and tactical presence. The XM15 helped normalize non-Colt AR production for duty and training roles, bridging a period when agencies weighed cost, parts support, and familiarity. Its current status reflects that historical role, a recognizable AR family associated with the pre-bankruptcy Bushmaster catalog, common in legacy inventories and in private hands that prefer a traditional sighting setup. Remington 1100. The Remington Model 1100 is a gas-operated semi-automatic shotgun introduced in 1963 and designed by Wayne Leake and Robert Kelly. By bleeding gas through ports near the fore end to drive a steel action sleeve, it softened recoil and delivered a cycling impulse that appealed to clay shooters and hunters alike. It appeared across 12, 16-20, and 28 gauge and 410 bore, with barrel options from 18 to 30 inches, and tube magazine capacities that commonly ranged from 4 to 8 rounds. Standard configurations handled 2 to 3/4 inch shells, while Magnum variants accepted both 3/4 and 3-inch loads. Production volume climbed into the millions, and by the early 1980s, it dominated auto-loading shotgun sales in the U.S. in dollar terms. The line spun off competition and commemorative editions, including a 2011 competition synthetic and a 50th anniversary model in 2013. And it displaced older Remington long recoil designs like the Model 1148. Users extended beyond civilians. Listed adopters range from LAPD SWAT to agencies in Australia, Indonesia, Malaysia, Malta, New Zealand, Panama, Thailand, and Benin. In practical handling, the gas system's character makes the 1100 approachable for extended sessions without fatigue, and its parts ecosystem kept it serviceable for decades. The model remains visible in sporting fields, collections, and some law enforcement armories where legacy inventory persists, while newer lines take over current production roles. As a marker in the evolution of gas-operated shotguns, it set expectations for recoil manners and load versatility that later designs pursued. Bushmaster ACR. The ACR began as Magpul's Masada concept in 2006, a modular rifle that Bushmaster licensed in 2008 for commercial semi-automatic production, while Remington manufactured selective fire variants for military and law enforcement evaluation. The design entered Army Industry Day and the individual carbine competition as a potential M4 replacement, bringing a quick change barrel and trunnion assembly, an adjustable gas regulator, and a non-reciprocating charging handle. Ambidextrous controls covered the selector, magazine release, and bolt release, and storage compartments were integrated into stock and grip. Chamberings listed in the source set include 5.56 by 45 NATO, 6.8 SPC 6.8 SPC 6.5, Grendel 762-39 and 450 Bushmaster, all feeding from 30-round Stanag magazines in the 5.56 configuration. Mass spans roughly 7.9 to 9.8 pounds depending on barrel and furniture, with barrels from 825 to 18.5 inches. The action uses a short-stroke gas piston with a rotating bolt, and effective point target range is sighted around 500 meters. Variants ranged from PDW length builds to an 18.5-inch DMR model, and a later individual carbine update explored lightweight materials and a folding charging handle. A 2010 recall addressed a rare malfunction that could cause multiple rounds to fire. Commercially, the ACR reached the market around 2010 with substantial initial interest before corporate instability at Freedom Group and later bankruptcy curtailed momentum. Plans were announced in 2021 to reintroduce the ACR under the revived Bushmaster brand. Today, the platform occupies a complex space, a technically ambitious modular rifle with a recognized profile, limited service adoption, and a community interested in parts availability and future production runs. Remington 1187. Introduced in 1987 and produced until 2020, the Remington 1187 is a gas-operated semi-automatic shotgun that aimed to handle a wide range of loads without manual adjustment. It retained the shotgun family's familiar lines, but used a self-compensating gas system that spread recoil over time and balanced cycling across sporting and heavier hunting shells. Chamberings were 12 and 20 gauge, cycling 2 3/4 and 3-inch shells. The Super Magnum variant accepted 3.5-inch shells for high payloads. Standard capacity is 5 rounds with a tube magazine, extending to 7 with a factory extension on certain trims. Barrel options ran from 14 to 30 inches, and choke systems were a mix of interchangeable screw-ins and fixed constrictions depending on model. In practice, some short barrel or Magnum 1187s were less reliable with very light target loads, a trait inherent to gas timing when configured for heavy shells, while the bulk of the line delivered the intended versatility. A lightened 1196 variant in the late 1990s pursued weight reduction in 12-gauge form, though barrels were not cross-compatible with the 1100. The 1187 served hunters and police users who wanted an autoloader with broad ammunition tolerance. With production ended, it sits in a wide secondary market and continues to see field time, while more recent models carry forward the concept of user-friendly gas operation at a range of shot weights. Bushmaster Carbon 15. The Carbon 15 family traces to Professional Ordnance's lightweight AR concept from the '94 assault weapons ban era. Later produced by Bushmaster, receivers used carbon-based polymers or carbon fiber materials that drove weight down across pistols, carbines, and rifle variants. Chamberings included 5.5 at 6.45 NATO in gas-operated models and 9 mm in blowback actions. Representative weights characterize the approach, with a Type 97 pistol at about 2.9 pounds and the R21 rifle under 4 pounds. This extreme lightness came with trade-offs: proprietary parts, short bolt carrier groups, and non-standard buffer arrangements limited interchangeability and complicated maintenance. Reports of cracked polymer receivers were not rare, particularly on short-barreled 5.56 builds where bolt speed and impulse were aggressive. Bushmaster iterated with more conventional touches, dust covers and forward assists on M4-style rifles to meet buyer expectations, but the core design remained a specialized solution. Adoption notes list select users, from Malaysia's VAT-69 Commandos and Peruvian Naval Infantry Special Forces to Oman and the Vatican's Corps of Gendarmerie. The line also appeared in popular media, including a 2003 film reference and mentions in music. Its present status is largely historical and collector-oriented, a recognizable early push toward ultralight AR pistols and carbines that influenced later weight reduction efforts while reminding designers of the durability limits imposed by material and geometry choices. Remington V3. The Remington V3 is a 12-gauge semi-automatic shotgun introduced in 2015 that applied the company's VersaPort gas system in a lighter, more affordable package. The system meters gas through ports in the chamber area that open according to shell length, capturing gas earlier and stretching the impulse to reduce perceived recoil. The V3 chambers 2 3/4 and 3-inch shells and uses a tube magazine. Field models typically carry 4, while tactical trims are listed at 6 or 8, depending on extension. Offerings included Field Sport, Pro, Tactical, and Competition tactical variants with multiple finishes. Pro packages added oversized controls, a supercell recoil pad, and factory threading for rem choke tubes. A Turkey Pro model used a 22-inch barrel with a TrueGlow headbanger choke and a pre-zeroed TrueGlow red dot at 40 yards, plus a shortened length of pull for faster shouldering in heavy clothing. Reviews in the source material report reliable cycling across varied ammunition and no malfunctions in harsh field conditions. The V3 aimed to take the place long held by the 1100 for general-purpose auto-loading duties, with a softer shooting experience and reduced maintenance demands compared to older gas architectures. It remains a contemporary entry in the auto-loading market, present in hunting blinds and in tactical configurations where manageable recoil and straightforward controls are priorities. Remington R1. The Remington R1 is a modern single-action .45 auto pistol introduced in 2010, marking Remington's full return to the M1911, a design it briefly produced under government contract in 1918. It uses a 5-inch barrel, short recoil operation, and Series 80 type firing pin safety, with an overall length near 8.5 inches and weight about 38.5 ounces in the basic configuration. Capacity is 7-play-1 with standard magazines, and 3-dot dovetail sights are typical. Factory versions expanded the catalog carry models with forged frames and Novak or Trigicon sights, enhanced models with improved controls and adjustable sights, a threaded variant for suppressed use, and stainless finishes. Early owner reports occasionally mentioned a tight barrel bushing, a recoil spring that felt soft after long sessions, and slide-stop geometry that could contact bullet noses. Common remedies included polishing, spring tuning, and minor fitting. Accuracy potential was strong in testing, with sub-2-inch groups at 20 yards sighted in the material after break-in. Production ran roughly from 2010 to 2018. Today, the R1 occupies a place among modern factory 1911s that hew close to service patterns while incorporating contemporary manufacturing practices, and used examples circulate with documented upgrade paths for sights and springs. Its presence reestablished the company in a segment it once touched during wartime, now framed for civilian and competition roles. Remington Nylon 66. The Remington Nylon 66 launched in 1959 and ran through 87, passing the million-unit mark and becoming one of the company's most recognizable rimfire rifles. It arrived as a solution to manufacturing cost and corrosion concerns in 22 autoloaders, leveraging DuPont's polymer expertise to mold a monolithic receiver and stock. The metal receiver cover concealed the underlying material to ease acceptance in a market used to walnut and blued steel. And early pricing targeted entry-level buyers in an era when wood stocks drove much of a rifle's cost. Torture testing between 1955 and 1958 established the concept's durability. Company representatives drove over rifles with trucks, submerged them, and continued firing tests. The action used a tubular magazine housed in the buttstock that fed .22 long rifle, with simple notch and blade sights and a polymer charging handle. Trick shooter. Tom Fry's 1959 exhibition with 3 nylon 66s, 104 hits out of 110 tossed wooden blocks over 13 days, cemented the rifle's public image as accurate and reliable at a speed few shooters experience. Over decades, the Nylon 66 moved from an economic solution to a cultural reference point, remaining in use for small game, pest control, and general plinking with minimal maintenance demands. It is now out of production, though some are still visible in used racks and private hands. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up, sharing it with fellow firearm enthusiasts, and subscribing for more content like this. And if you have an idea for another topic you'd like to see covered, feel free to post a comment below. Thanks for watching.